Namaskaram to all. And let us see what we were discussing in our previous sessions and how to continue with it. Chadurmukha samarambham vakbhadacharya madhyamam asmadacharya paryandam vande guru paramparam. Ragadirogan sadadanushaktan sheshakaya prasrudan sheshan aulsukya moha aradidan jakhana yo purva vaidyaya namostu tasmai. So, we started discussing the Prakrita Vaikrita doshas. And at one point of time, I felt myself that the listeners, I'm taking the listeners to more sort of a unrest, some sort of a mental unrest or intellectual unrest. That is what I understand from the many responses which I get in my personal messages. And I thought some way that is nice, because we were all in some sort of a comfort zone, and we were enjoying that some sort of a euphoria that we have understood everything, we are comfortable with these concepts, we are learning a holistic system, we are dealing with that, we are dealing with this. And interestingly, nobody was knowing anything, and everybody was knowing everything. So it is interesting to have some sort of an intellectual unrest. So we were discussing, we completed our narrations about the Prakrita Vadadaya. We saw it as a Purva Paksha, or some sort of a point of discussion, as introduced by Vriddha Vagbhada. It is interesting to see that it is not a ditto point taken from some other text. Vriddha Vagbhada has made it a beautiful narration. And even the Lekhu Vagbhada did not take it as such, maybe considering the complexity of idea. So we, some way or the other, we completed what we had in our minds about the Prakrita Vadadaya. Now, about the Vikrita Vadadaya, Vaikritastu garbhad abhinisrutasya ahararasasya malaha sambhavanti prakrudeshu avarohanti te kaladivasena swapramana vruddhikshaye yogad deham anugrinnhanti dushayanti cha. This is what we saw. And we explained the meanings of some of these phrases or sentences. And when we read more and more, we will get more and more ideas. But I am not supposed to give all those ideas which are sprouting in our minds, because all these things are to be validated practically, otherwise it makes no sense. But here, garbhad abhinisrutasya aharasya malaha sambhavanti, we saw that is manifesting as the mala from the garbhad. So all those things we have seen. And there may be many other points, but there are some interesting observations, very interesting observations, even though they are explained as from the very beginning of the Garbha, there are some sort of a barriers or time limits or some sort of a demarcations about the operations of Prakrita Vadadaya and Vikrita Vadadaya, when one should start operating, when the other should start operating, all these things. And Then we saw about the Vaikritavadadeyaha. The next point was Prakriteshu avarohanti. That also we found this Vaikritavadadeyaha or doshas by name. Prakriteshu avarohanti. Within the Vatadaya or in the Prakrita Vatadaya, avarohanti, get off to settle. Or they sync with, that may be the better way of understanding. They sync with the Prakrita Vatadaya. So the Vaikritavadadeyaha get synced with the Vaikritavada. Now, te kaladivasena swapramana vritthikshaya yogad deham anugrihnandi dushayanti cha. They are also, that is also somewhat a clear idea. From our discussions, many other points can be brought in and many questions were asked. We found that the three dhadus or the Prakritavada, these are stable or constant principles. They are constant principles. They do not fluctuate all through the life. And when they start fluctuating, that is an indication of death, nearing death. They are called dhadus because they hold or bear the sharira all throughout its period of existence and never pollute or spoil it. Dharanad dhadavaha. And the status of Prakritavada, the principles, that means that dhadavaha in an individual is unaffected by the ahara, vihara all throughout the lifespan. And when it is happening, that is indicative of a fatal turn. Then we also saw that Sharira is going through some fundamental stages from the Asti to Vinashyati. And it may be recollected that accumulation, transformation, transportation. These are the three basic categories of events happening in a living body. And we were trying to explain that there are three agencies proposed by the Ayurvedic corpus of thought process. Three agencies which are responsible for the three categories of events, and we named them as Kapha, Pitta and Vata respectively. Now, a person or Purusha will have a default setting of these three agencies. That is what we were trying to explain with the concept of Prakriti. This is something like a factory setting of a gadget. The factory setting of a gadget. This factory setting of Kabha, Pitta and Vada of a person is called his Prakriti or her Prakriti. And the Kapha, Pitta, Vata, or in a conventional form, Vatadi, which forms the Prakriti. I'm explaining what we have explained in our previous sessions in a simpler manner or a very basic manner, because I had a feeling that some way or the other things were getting a little bit complicated. So the Kabha, Pitta, Vata, which form the Prakriti, is known as Prakritavada. That is why they are called Prakritavada. Something related with the Prakriti is known as Prakritam. And we have some very interesting observations in the textbooks in this regard, which will be nice to recollect at this point of time about the Prakriti, which are very famous. I am not going to explain these phrases or karikas or slokas word by word, but just reminding them. What is that? Number one, we find in Ashtanga Hridaya, that is Shuklartavasthaihi janmadau visheneva vishakrimehe taischa tisra prakritayah hina madhyottamaha prathak. Shuklartavasthaihi janmadau visheneva vishakrimehe taischa tisra prakritayah. Janmadau. Janmadau, in the beginning of the Asti stage, based on the presence and dominance of this Vada Pitta Kapha in Shukla and Artava, Shuklartavasthaihi, their default setting is programmed. So based on the presence and predominance or prominence of Vada, Pitta, Kapha, which one is present more, which is dominating the others, the default setting, the factory setting is programmed. This is known as the Prakriti. This is going to be the Prakriti of that offspring, of the Garbha. But again, later in the Sharirasthana, we find Shuklasrug Garbhini Bhojya Cheshta Garbhashayartushu Yasyadoshodhigaha Tena Prakritihi Saptadhodita Angavibhagam Shariram. Ashtanga Hridayam Shariram, third chapter. What is told? Shukrasrug Garbhini Bhojya Cheshta Garbhashayartushu. So here we find a few more factors influencing the Prakriti. But the idea is clear. From the time of the Shukla Artava Jiva Samyoga, from the time of the Shukla Artava Jiva Samyoga to the time of Prasava, the Shishu is growing in the Garbha. And one thing is clear, what is that? Yaha doshaha adhikaha. Yasyad doshodhigaha tena prakritihi. So yaha doshaha adhikaha, whichever dosha is dominating, tena, because of that particular dominating dosha, prakritihi syad, the prakriti happens. So here we find that the prakriti which is made as the factory setting at the Shukrartava Jiva Samyoga itself is fine-tuned by the factors like Bhojya and Cheshta of Garbhini. Bhojya and Cheshta represent the complete Ahara Vihara of Garbhini. Ahara Vihara of Garbhini. Then Garbhashaya, Ritu, Garbhashaya and Ritu. So the environment which is prevailing in the Garbhashaya. So the Garbhashaya as a Desha, it represents the Desha. And the influence of the Ritu, that is Kala. So Prakriti, which is primarily set at the time of the Shukrartava Jiva Samyoga, is refined or tuned, fine-tuned by Ahara, Vihara, Desha and Kala related to the growth of the Shishu from the stage of Asti to the stage of Jayate. From the stage of that Asti to the stage of Jayate. That is a very interesting. That is very interesting. Just 1 minute. Some mic is on, I think. Okay. Yes. So these influencers in terms of ahara, vihara, desha and kala, please note very interesting thing. They will not make any change in the Prakriti, but make sure that its manifestation is optimized, is well optimized, means some sort of a sampatti is achieved in that person by the influence of ahara, vihara, desha and kala related to the growth. It is customized and optimized. They may be providing some sort of a sampurnata to the Prakriti. I will explain it in a different way. Say, take the case of a Kapha Prakriti. A person, Kapha Prakriti is initiated at the beginning of that Shukrartava Jiva Samyoga. And the Garbhini is also of a Kapha Prakriti. The Garbhashaya holds the bhavas of Kapha Prakriti. And the time of conception was Vasanta. And the Garbhini's Ahara Vihara or Ahara and Cheshta were also Kaphakara. Then that Kapha Prakriti which was initiated enjoys the maximum support from the influencers, and that is going to be showing definitely in the Garbha as maybe the utmost level of manifestation of Kapha Prakriti. Whereas another Garbha formed with the Kapha Prakriti, but the Garbhini is of Vata Prakriti. Garbhini is of Vata Prakriti. Or the time of conception is Grishma. Then that Kapha Prakriti need not attain a similar degree of manifestation as happened in the previous case. But still, the Shishu will continue to have Kapha Prakriti intact, unaltered, but manifesting with a lesser degree of features of the ideal Kapha Prakriti. So there are influencers on Prakriti as long as the Garbha is in the Garbhashaya. From these examples, we may understand that Prakriti gains sort of a unique or customized style of manifestation in each individual. Still, a generalization is possible. Like these are all Kapha Prakritis, these are all Pitta Prakritis. So that generalization is possible, but within the generalization, there is a unique or a customized or a Vishesha is possible. In short, all the Kapha Prakriti persons need not have all the features of ideal Kapha Prakriti to the same degree. This is because of the differences in the way the manifestation of Prakriti is influenced by the Garbhini, Bhojya, Cheshta, Garbhashaya and Rutu. We may also understand that these influencers stop operating or they cease to exist right from that time of birth, Jayande onwards. The ultimate manifestation of Prakriti comes to an end, or it reaches the stage of completion with the event of Prasava. with the event of Prasava. Yes, now the formation of Prakriti is completed. What does it mean? The setting of the three agencies, Kapha, Pitta, and Vata, in that person is completed. Now he has become a custom-made individual, so unique, with some sort of a unique factory setting, unique fingerprint, unique signature. And which is dominating, whether it is an Eka, Dvi, or Sama, all these things are fixed by that time. So it is something like making a gadget with a peculiar configuration. Done. Or in a simpler version, suppose you weave a piece of cloth. So the type of thread used, whether it is cotton thread, whether it is polyester, whether it is silk, and the number of threads that you are going to weave in a given area, fixed. Everything is executed. And the cloth is born. Now, no change is considered. After the birth of that cloth, no change is considered. And a change indicates the end of existence of that cloth piece. But now, once birth jayate happens, the picture changes. With the onset of abhyavaharana of the first meal, say that it is the stanya, or whatever we give, some prasham or whatever, the first thing we give, or that shishu takes in abhyavaharanam, whatever we give as per the traditional practices, whatever it is, the process of pajana is initiated. So up to that, there was some sort of a pajana was happening. Some principle of Agni was operating, but it was a part of the Mata. It was not an independent operation. And Sarakitta Vibhajanam was not a priority. It was not required. But of course, there may be some sort of a filtering, sieving, all these things might have happened. But it is not at all taken into consideration. But here onwards, Pajanam is initiated. The principle of that individual's own Agni is coming to operation. That idea of Agni is envisaged or manifested. The transformation of the Ahara is going through the stages of like any other thing. The Madhurya, Amlata, and Kaduta sequentially, which causes an upsurge of the same rasas all over the Sharira. Accordingly, the Kapha, Pitta, and Vata of the Prakrita doshas. This is the first time that reacts or responds to the corresponding upsurges of rasas. And how does it respond, or what is the outcome of that response? A free set of Kapha, Pitta, and Vata of a different type are generated. They were inside already. They were in unmanifest form, avyaktam. Now vyaktadam yati. As the products of the Prakrita Vadadi, as the first response to the changes happening as part of the operations of transformation. So just by reflecting the meaning that they are the products of Prakritavadadi, they are known as Vaikritavada. So Vaikriti or Vaikrita or Vikriti means the secondary ones, the products which are made out of some Prakriti, which we explained regarding the Avyakta and all those things in the Sarga. Thus, the Vada, Pitta, Kabha in the Prakriti stage act as the bija for their produces the Vaikrita Vada, Pitta, Kabhas. Now onwards, they start running the show. So, from the Abhyavaharana of the first meal, which was there, of course, but they were not operational. They were from that Garbhadi, they are there, built in. But from the Abhyavaharana of the first meal, this new set of Vada, Pitta, Kabha take over the transformation, transportation, accumulation activities. These sprout from the Prakrita Vada, Pitta, Kabha. And so, Karananvidhayitvad Karyanam, they are identical with the source forms. For example, Vikritavada and Prakritavada are identical. Same is the case with Vikrita Pitta, Prakrita Pitta, Vikrita Kapha, Prakrita. So, for all practical purposes, they are considered as same. They are considered as same. So, they are settled that way because of this sameness. They are settled. That is why the statement comes, Prakriteshu avarohandi. Prakriteshu avarohandi. In a given individual, her or his Vaikrita doshas operate as prompted by the Prakrita Vadadaya. They operate as prompted by the Prakriti, or in other words, they operate as prompted by the Prakriti of that individual. What does it mean? See, there is a generalized understanding on how a dosha, say for example, how Vada operates, its gunas, its karmas, etc. But the grade or intensity with which Vada dosha operates will be different in different prakritis. Will be different in different prakritis. It will not be same all across all prakritis. That is very, very important. The Vaikrita doshas and the Prakrita Vadadis cannot be identified separately or manipulated separately for all practical purposes in any point of time. But a keen observation of the events of accumulation, transformation, and transportation happening in a particular individual in different environments under the influence of different types of stressors will give a clear understanding of these two types of Vadadis. The Vaikrita doshas constantly respond to the Kala, Artha, and Karma and goes to stages of Samavastha or Vishamavastha. Interesting. Note the point, please. Vaikrita doshas themselves can have samavastha, and that is the samavastha which we are dealing about while we are talking about swasthya. Samadosha. That samadosha is about the samavastha of the Vaikrita doshas in an individual. And that samavastha of the Vaikrita doshas is as prompted by his Prakriti or her Prakriti. So they constantly respond to the influence from the Kala, Artha and Karma and goes to Samavastha sometimes or Vishamavastha. Whereas Prakrita doshas decide how the Vaikrita doshas should respond to the influence of Kala, Artha and Karma. Prakrita doshas decide, they prompt how the Vaikrita doshas should respond, and they remain unchanged. The influence of Kala, Artha and Karma is always received by the Vaikritavadadis. They form, so that way the Vaikritavadadis form the first level of the response system. And they never hand it over to the level of the Prakrita doshas. And a stimulus in terms of Kala and Artha and Karma is always, first line is received by the Vaikrita doshas. They never hand it, but their response will be prompted by the Prakritavadadis. And in any case, it never means that this Prakritavadadis will be never be affected by Kala, Artha or Karma. There may be factors of Kala, Artha and Karma which are strong enough to influence, go beyond the Vaikritavadadis and touch the Prakritavadadis. But such stressors, influencers, act as the agents of death of that individual. They act as the representative of Mrityu. Mumukshoho Swarupat Chalandi. So this is how this idea of, so I think most of the questions we were getting as part of our discussions in our previous sessions are taken into account in this descriptions. Definitely there should be more issues, more clarifications required, but these are all going to be validated by applications. So with that, we will conclude today's explanations, but I think there are some points as I was doing in our previous sessions. I'll be taking all these notes or comments in the chat box, and I'll be only once that idea is clear and all are satisfied with the explanations which you understand. It is not just an intellectual exercise. Once you are satisfied with the applicational value of this, because ultimately we are all moving to the Samprapti. That is the starting. That was the starting point of our explanation. So once these ideas are clear and applicationally satisfied, I will be taking all these chat box clues for designing the next session. I will be just going through the influence of Matur Ahara Vihara, etc. Is it Prakrita dosha or Vaikrita Vatadi dosha? I'm taking care. I'm taking note of it. Is Dauhrida in pregnancy based on Prakriti of Shishu? There are multiple explanations for that. That also I'm taking note. Dr. Reena, how to understand the Ashaya dosha. I could not understand that question. I request Dr. Reena to send me a personal message. Does Pumsavana influence Prakriti? Very nice, very nice. Very interesting questions are coming. Sir, in the context of Down syndrome, etc., the Vikrita dosha that lead to syndromes, whether to be considered or Vikriti or Vyadhi or as they say Prakriti. Yes, very important questions where we will be discussing about these sort of congenital issues, chromosomal issues, and all those things. We will come to it. Then, can we say that in Pitta Vata Prakriti, person with the Vaikrita dosha, also Pitta Vata will be dominating? Again, I'm taking a note of that question. In case of congenital diseases, how to understand the influence of Prakrita Vadadi? So that is also taken care of. I think it is included in Dr. Reena's question. So nice. I hope you are all happy with the way in which things are going on. And I am happy that you are getting more and more intellectually unrest. Because I think when you are broken out of your comfort zone and start thinking more and more about the highly conventional ideas which we were satisfied with, I think there's a turbulence. And intellectual turbulence is what is going to make you move forward. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. We will meet once again in our Saturday session. Bhishayam sadhu vrittanam bhadram agamasalinam abhyastakarmanam bhadram bhadrabhilashitam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.